Today, I'm going to be talking about the DeFi wars that have been going on secretly since 2021, how you can capitalize on this, why it's starting to blow up right now with different cryptos such as Curve and Convex, and why the biggest asset manager in the world is right now partnering up with one of these cryptos. You're also going to want to stay till the end because I'm going to be talking about the crypto that has not gone up quite as much as these other crypto and is going to explode in the coming months. Let's get into it. Do me a favor before we start though, smash that like button. And if you haven't started subscribing to this channel, subscribe because I am bringing all sorts of alpha daily for you, sometimes twice a day. All right, let's get into it. All right, so Curve plus Elixir plus BlackRock are bridging 533 million between traditional finance and decentralized finance. This is the sort of stuff that you really should be getting excited about because so far, BlackRock hasn't been dabbling too much outside of their own application. I don't want to call it a decentralized application because it's like permissioned DeFi, but where they're going to actually start converging with some of these DeFi applications to have more liquidity injected and more people getting eyes on decentralized finance. And this is why we've seen Curve go absolutely parabolic in the last few weeks. But check this out. Just in the last 30 days, we've had Curve up right here, 231%. This is huge. This is huge. Today, it took a little bit of a dip, but literally just came right back, and there's no sign of this starting to slow down because of this new potential partnership that they've got going on with BlackRock. Now, why is this so important? Why does Curve even have any value? Well, see, back in 2021, I actually met with a guy who turned me on to the DeFi Wars. And it started off with Curve.finance, okay? And Curve essentially is the OG of the DeFi Wars. Now, what are DeFi Wars? Well, DeFi Wars were different DAOs fighting for certain cryptocurrencies because you were able to get voting rights to move the emissions. Okay, emissions are like if I have a liquidity pool where I'm putting it up as collateral so people can use that to trade peer-to-peer, I can actually earn some certain benefits from the actual decentralized applications such as Curve. I can earn their token to make more yield instead of just earning it based off of the fees that are being generated between the peer-to-peer trades going on in decentralized applications. And so Curve was actually the first decentralized application that was recognized as like the way to vote to determine where you're going to get these emissions. Okay. So the Curve Wars is really where everything started. So what ended up happening was there were a whole bunch of DAOs that wanted to get into Curve so that they could determine where the Curve coin was going to be, put towards in terms of liquidity pools. So let's say, for instance, if I have, 10% of the entire Curve supply staked, you would have to stake it in the Curve pool, the voting escrow pool. I could vote to have more Curve sent to pay emissions inside of, let's say, the USDT, USDC pool, as opposed to like the ETH USDC pool, because I have the majority of my money in this USDT, USDC pool. So it was a way for them to control this valuable asset, the emissions, so that I could actually make more off of what's called yield farming. Okay. Yield farming just means I'm putting up my money so people can trade peer to peer, and I'm earning a token, not the tokens that I'm putting up as peer to peer for trading. So in this case, it would be USDT and USDC, but it would be Curve. So I'm substituting the USDT or USDC that I would earn for allowing people to go peer to peer and I'm earning Curve instead. But Curve may go up higher. I may actually make more because they're putting more emissions towards that. So that highly incentivized me to do that. And by the way, this is one of the tactics that I used to become a millionaire back in 2020 and 2021 and 2022, actually. And so what ended up happening was he started to have more and more DAOs accumulate Curves so that they could determine where the emissions went. Now, here's the even crazier part. The more Curve that I held, the more interest that the Curve protocol would pay for. Okay, so let's say, for instance, I have like an initial interest rate that it's paying me at like 10%. But let's say if I staked 100,000 Curve, then I could get all the way up to 30%. All right. And I'll show you an example of this here. Okay, so here's an example. So let's say, for instance, if I don't have any Curve staked whatsoever, I would be making 29.92% only, as opposed to if I had the maximum amount of Curve staked, I would end up making way more, 74.79%. The issue was that not a lot of people had so much money to where they could ever reach this. So what ended up happening, and you can see here, who's the largest holder of Curve? Well, it's multiple different DAOs. So Convex, Stake DAO, and Yearn.finance. So why were these different DAOs holding this Curve? It was so that they could write a smart contract where they basically bundled all of our Curve cumulatively put together, okay? And they offer us the highest interest rate, and then they would take a small fee in exchange for basically bringing the community together and putting it all into one smart contract. And this ended up being wildly successful. And this was basically the beginning of what's called the Curve Wars, okay? So this is, a big, big difference. So you're getting, sometimes up to 3 times more when it comes to this. Now, let's take a look at Convex. And Convex has just basically exploded even higher than Curve in the last 4 weeks. So we're up 238% by just holding this Convex, okay? And again, Convex, all it did was they said, hey, stake your Curve here so that we could then get you the highest interest rate. So it gave Curve and Convex a use case, okay? But let's take a look at, so we see here in the Curve, Convex is the highest holder of Curve. They own 51% of the voting escrow supply, not of the entire supply of Curve, but the voting escrow of Curve. Well, let's take a look at the Convex Wars, because Convex had something very, very similar where essentially you could vote where you wanted more of the emissions to go towards and what different yield farms to put into its ecosystem. But let's not take a look at these liquid wrappers here. Let's take a look at the actual largest holders. So we have Clever, CTP.eth, and Frax. Okay, and Frax holds 7.4% of the Curve. They're not too far away from Clever. So Frax is actually one of the largest holders of Convex, which by way of proxy, they're actually one of the largest holders of Curve as well. Because remember, when we go back here, Convex is the largest holder of voting escrow Curve. Okay, so this is a big deal. Now, let's take a look at the price action, though, that Frax has had here as opposed to these other two. In the last 30 days, Frax is only up 89.4%. Now, what is Frax compared to Curve, okay? So Curve is essentially a decentralized exchange where you can go and trade peer-to-peer, and what they really got known for was for having provided the deepest liquidity for stablecoins. So USDC, USDT, Frax, DAI, etc. Okay, and now they've recently added like even stablecoins for like Ethereum. So like, some of the staked ETH, Frax ETH, etc., etc. So those are, in my opinion, they're considered stable coins because they are, not only backed one-to-one by Ethereum, but they are pegged to the price. Okay. And that's what we would consider a stable coin. So it is stable relative to the price of Ethereum. Okay. So Frax now compared to Convex is also still way down. Now, what does Convex do that gives it its value? Well, they give you basically the ability to stake your liquidity pools that are on Curve in Convex so that you can earn a higher interest rate. So all in all, it's a pretty simple process what they're doing, right? It's not like they have, swaps or borrowing and lending or yield farming or, you name it, right? It's just a pretty simple, straightforward, smart contract that they've just created something that people have a demand for, all right? And while I say simple, I'm just saying the ecosystem as a whole, they're not thinking outside of just basically being that DAO that allows people to earn more yet. Okay, maybe it'll change here in the near future. Okay, but Frax, and again, well, let's take a look at this price. So this price action of 238%. Right here, 231% for Curve. Frax is only up 89.4%. Okay. And look, don't take my word for it. You can take a look at my students. They've got lots of wins over calls like Frax over the last few months. And we have just been absolutely crushing it. This is our success channel. You can go in and take a look at where people are winning, how they're just making money hand over fist. This is one student. Let's see how much they're up. 253% in just the matter of a few weeks, a couple of weeks. Let's take a look here. We made some calls on Dogecoin. This person's up 200%, 1,700 gain. So I made this Frax call about 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to show you, wait till the end. I'm going to show you how much I'm personally up as of today. All right. So here's another example of the call that I made here on Frax. I've been, guys, gals, I'm telling you, and you can take a look at some videos. I'm going to put one Frax video that I did here and one Frax video that I did here. If you want to go in and learn a little bit more about Frax, we're going to talk about some things, but look, I've got lots of students who, this one, Audrey, this is her biggest one in terms of gains. Michael Gross thanking me for not my financial advice. He's crushing it on his Frax trade. And a lot of what we're doing right now is we're just leverage trading it because I think it's one of the biggest opportunities. And if you're interested in learning how you can do this, we have an end of year special where it's $4.99 for 6 months. You can come in. We have self-guided courses. We have live courses that we're doing almost every single day except for Sunday. So head down to the link in my description and get signed up today because this offer is not going to last past January 1st. All right, now let's take a look at the Frax Wars, okay? And the Frax Wars here essentially shows who's the largest holder of Frax. So not only is Frax the third largest holder of Convex, but Convex is the actual largest holder of VEFXS, so voting escrow FXS. And this is, again, just more money circulating through the entire ecosystems. But Convex wants as much Frax as possible because not only do they get to vote where the FXS emissions go towards the yield farmers, but they also get the higher percentage that they can put onto their platform. And then they take a little fee right after they, after everybody stakes there and gets like the maximum amount of rewards available. Okay. And you can take a look here that there's a big difference between Curve and Convex when it comes to Frax. All right. Both of those very specialized in what they're doing. Curve being stablecoin DEX and Convex being basically a place where you can stake your Curve, your FXS, and multiple different ecosystems and get the highest amount of rewards by pulling everybody's money together. But look at how comprehensive Frax is. Not only does Frax have its own decentralized application with various different things that we'll cover here in a few seconds, but it also has its own blockchain. It's an L2 superchain built on Optimism, all right? And it is lightning fast. It's got a ton of TVL. It is growing like crazy. In fact, let's take a look at this chart right here. This is the total value locked in Fraxtal, and this thing is just moving up and to the right, okay? This thing is moving up and to the right. And I think this is like in terms of the blockchains that are Validiums and Optimisms, that's number 4 and climbing, all right? This thing is moving very, very quickly. In fact, out of the top 4, even top 5, it is the one that is climbing the fastest in terms of total value locked. I have a lot of my Frax on Fraxtal, and I just love the ecosystem that it has going on, okay? But not just does it have its own blockchain, it has its own swap, it has its own borrowing and lending, it's got its own flat coins, which is a coin that moves up or down with CPI. It's got its own Frax ETH derivative, so staked Frax ETH. You can actually stake it and earn a yield on your Ethereum. In fact, the highest yield of the major top 4 or 5 staked ETH. You have VEFXS, where VEFXS, I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit, because the staking rewards you're about to get on VEFXS are about to go up in a big way. You've got staking, so you can provide yield farms here. I actually have some nice yield farms in there paying me like between 20 and 40% per year. You have bridging, where they make money. You have a points system, and now you've also got bonds, okay, which I just got out of my bonds right now because the crypto market as a whole is going up and there were better opportunities. But I bet your ass I will be back in these bonds, because I'd rather be in these than just, stable coins. There's some really, really good yield here. That'll be for another day to talk about. But let's take a look at something very interesting that's recently happened in the Frax ecosystem. And that is this right here, all right? This collateral ratio, all right? What was happening was the Frax rewards, okay, from all the profits that they were making, were going towards paying this collateral ratio. So it used to be that FXS was used to kind of balance Frax, the stable coin, all right? And after the Terra Luna crash, the entire Frax ecosystem voted towards backing Frax with only USDC. And it was a very, very painful road. It took a few years for us to get to about 100% ratio. But we finally achieved it late last week, all right? And now what's going to start happening is a lot of the profits, instead of going here towards basically getting this collateral ratio up to 100%, will now start to go towards the VEFXS holders. And this is why we've seen the suppression of the Frax shares coin so far this year and basically last year. It has not moved up with the rest of the crypto market. But guys, gals, this is why we could see this thing just moon. And let's take a look at how far this thing has to go until it hits its all-time highs. So you can see here the all-time highs were past 40. I remember kind of selling some at even $45. I might have caught like a wick, but right here it just shows the all-time high at 42.8. So we're not even close to that. We're 92% away from this price. And I personally think Frax could even see $100 with how profitable it is. And don't take my word for it. Take a look at this. The balance sheet, okay, this is the balance sheet, is at $36 million right now, okay? And let's take a look at what they're also holding in their balance sheet. Curve, a lot of it, 4.1 million and another 1.5 million. This right here, they're holding it in Convex, in Curve, and this right here is what they're holding in the VECRV, okay, smart contracts. So this is the reason that I think Frax is going to go through the roof. And let's take a look at where I'm at right now. I'm at 178% profit. Yesterday I was at 253, but that's because I'm using a pretty big amount of leverage. I'm using 6x leverage. And, you know, once I get to a certain point, I am going to start taking profit, but this is showing no signs of cooling off. So guys, gals, if you want the most explosive gains right now, I would not be looking at these meme coins that have no real utility. All right. They may create community, but that's great up to a certain point. I want a crypto that's cash flowing. All right, guys, gals, if you like this video, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button, smash that notification button so you get notified every single time I put out a new video. And if you're interested in taking advantage of our year-end special, again, the link is down below. It's $4.99 for 6 months. You cannot beat it. You got to learn this stuff. I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.